Aptine Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the US Iron Dawn, watching the stars through the main viewport. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but she didn't mind. The patrol route along the outer rim of human space was usually quiet. Too quiet, some of her crew said. But Lisa liked the peace. It gave her time to think and plan for the day when humanity might meet other intelligent life. That day came sooner than she expected. Captain, called Ben Parker from his science station. I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors. Lisa set down her coffee cup and walked over to the science console. Ben's face was lit by the blue glow of his displays. He was young for a chief science officer, only 28, but he had the best eyes for sensor data Lisa had ever seen. What kind of strange? She asked. Ben pointed to a blip on his screen. Unknown contact, bearing 270 Mark 15. It's moving slowly and the energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. Lisa felt her heart speed up. After 30 years in space, she had learned to trust her instincts. Something important was about to happen. Jake, she called to her first officer. Commander Jake Sullivan was checking reports at his station, but he looked up immediately when he heard his name. Yes, Captain? Set condition yellow. All hands to stations. We might have company. Jake's eyes widened slightly, but his voice stayed calm. Aye, Captain. Condition yellow. All hands to stations. The bridge became busy as the crew prepared for whatever might come. Lisa watched the unknown contact on the main screen. It was still too far away to see clearly, but it was definitely artificial. After all these years of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they were about to find out. Captain, Ben said, his voice excited. The contact is changing course. It's heading toward us. Any signs of weapons? None that I can detect, but their technology is different from ours. I might not recognize their weapon systems. Lisa nodded. That made sense. If aliens existed, they would probably build things differently than humans did. Kate, she called to her chief engineer over the comm system. How are we looking down there? Chief Engineer Kate Williams' voice came back clear and strong. All systems green, Captain. Reactors are running smooth, and all weapons are ready if you need them. Thanks, Kate. Let's hope we don't need them. 20 minutes later, the alien ship was close enough to see on the main screen. It was beautiful in a strange way. The hull was smooth and curved, like it had been grown instead of built. Strange lights moved along its surface in patterns that almost looked like writing. Captain, Ben said, they're scanning us. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. The aliens were looking at her ship, learning about human technology. She hoped they would like what they saw. Scan them back, she ordered. Let's see what we can learn. Ben's fingers moved over his console. Beginning full sensor sweep now. On the alien ship, Scout Commander Veltar watched the human vessel approach. The Zephyrians had been exploring this part of the galaxy for hundreds of years. They had found dozens of intelligent species, but most were still using primitive technology. Some hadn't even discovered fire yet. Others were just beginning to explore their own star systems. But this ship was different. It looked crude compared to Zephyrian designs, all angles and hard edges. But there was something about it that made Veltar nervous. Senior Analyst Korthven, he called to his science officer. What do our scans show? Korthven looked at his displays and frowned. The readings are unusual, Commander. Unusual how? Their power output is much higher than it should be for a ship of that size. And their hull composition. Korthven paused and ran the scan again. Commander, this cannot be right. Veltar moved to stand behind his science officer. What cannot be right? Their hull contains materials that should not exist. These readings show substances that require the heart of a star to create. But they're using them to build ships. Veltar felt his blood grow cold. In all his years of exploration, he had never encountered anything like this. Are you certain? I am running the scan for the third time. The readings are the same. On the human ship, Ben was having similar problems with his readings. Captain, their ship is made of materials I've never seen before. The hull seems to be alive somehow. And their power source. He shook his head. I can't figure out how it works. Lisa studied the alien vessel on the screen. It was smaller than the Iron Dawn, but that didn't mean much. Human ships were built for long patrols and heavy fighting. Alien ships might be built for completely different purposes. Any signs of hostility? She asked. None. They seem to be scanning us just like we're scanning them. Lisa made a decision. Open a channel. Let's try to talk to them. Jake looked worried. Captain, we don't know anything about these aliens. They could be dangerous. They could be, Lisa agreed. But they could also be peaceful. We won't know unless we try. The communications officer, Lieutenant Sam Carter, worked at his console. Channel open, Captain. Lisa straightened her uniform and faced the main screen. This is Captain Lisa Morgan of the United Earth ship Iron Dawn. Can you understand us? For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen changed, and Lisa found herself looking at an alien face. The creature had large, dark eyes and smooth, pale skin. When it spoke, the words were translated by the ship's computer. Greetings, Captain Morgan. I am Scout Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Exploration Fleet. We welcome you to this sector of space. Lisa smiled. Thank you, Commander. This is humanity's first contact with another intelligent species. We're honored to meet you. Veltar seemed surprised by this. First contact? You have never encountered other spacefaring races. Never. Are there many others? Oh yes, Captain. The galaxy is full of intelligent life. Most species discover each other within a few hundred years of achieving space travel. You humans must be very isolated indeed. Lisa felt a mixture of excitement and worry. If the galaxy was full of intelligent life, why had humans never encountered any of it before? Were they really that isolated, or was there another reason? On the Zephyrian ship, Korthven continued his scans. What he was seeing made no sense. The human ship's defensive systems alone were more advanced than anything in the Zephyrian fleet. And those weapon signatures… Commander, he whispered urgently. You need to see this. But Veltar was busy talking to the human captain, unaware that his science officer had just discovered something that would change the galaxy forever. The peaceful conversation continued, while in the background, sensors on both ships gathered data that would soon spread fear across 1,000 worlds. Ben Parker stared at his sensor displays with growing confusion. The alien ship continued to scan the Iron Dawn, but the readings he was getting back made no sense. According to his instruments, the alien vessel was made of some kind of living metal that could repair itself. The power source seemed to draw energy from empty space itself. This is impossible, he muttered, running the scans again. What's impossible? Captain Morgan asked, walking over to his station. Captain, their technology is completely different from ours. I can barely understand how any of it works. But here's the strange part. Even though I can't figure out how they built their ship, my sensors say it's much less powerful than ours. Lisa frowned. Less powerful? That doesn't sound right. Their ship looks very advanced. It is advanced, just in a different way. They seem to focus on efficiency and elegance. But our raw power output is about 50 times higher than theirs. On the Zephyrian ship, Korthven was having the opposite problem. The more he scanned the human vessel, the more frightened he became. He had served as a science officer for 40 years and had analyzed hundreds of different ship designs. But nothing had prepared him for what he was seeing now. Commander Veltar, he called quietly, trying not to interrupt the diplomatic conversation. I need to speak with you immediately. Veltar glanced back at his science officer and saw the fear in his eyes. Captain Morgan, please excuse me for a moment. I will return shortly. Lisa nodded. Of course, Commander. The main screen switched to a view of the alien ship, while Veltar moved to the science station. What is it, Korthven? Commander, these readings cannot be correct. The human ship's power core is generating energy levels that should be impossible for a vessel of this size. Veltar looked at the displays. The numbers meant nothing to him, but he could see a science officer's hands shaking. Explain it to me in simple terms. Their main reactor is producing enough power to supply energy to our entire home world. For a ship this size, they should need maybe 1,000th of that power. But they're generating it anyway, as if power is no problem for them at all. Perhaps their technology is inefficient? Korthven shook his head. No, Commander. This is controlled fusion at a level we thought impossible. They have somehow built a miniature star and put it inside their ship. And that's not the worst part. Veltar's skin went pale. There's more? Their whole composition includes elements we've never seen before. According to these readings, parts of their ship are made from neutron star material. But that's impossible. Nothing can survive the gravity needed to mine neutron stars. Are you certain of these readings? I have run the scans 12 times. Each time, the results are the same. Korthven pointed to another section of his display. And their weapons, Commander? I don't think I should tell you about their weapons. Tell me. Korthven took a deep breath. They appear to have weaponized gravity itself. Their main guns don't fire projectiles or energy beams. They create localized gravitational fields that can crush anything in their path. Veltar felt his legs grow weak. In all the history of galactic civilization, no species had ever managed to weaponize gravity. The theoretical knowledge existed, but the technology was considered impossible. How many of these gravity weapons do they have? 16 main batteries, each one capable of destroying a planet. And defensive systems? Over 2,000 point defense weapons that can track and destroy incoming missiles at light speed. Their shields appear to be some kind of space-time distortion that redirects attacks into parallel dimensions. Veltar stared at the human ship on his screen. It looked so ordinary, so crude compared to Zephyrian designs. But if Korthven was right, it was the most dangerous weapon ever built. Back on the Iron Dawn, Ben was trying to make sense of his own impossible readings. Captain, I think our sensors might be broken. Why? According to these readings, their ship is held together by molecular bonds that shouldn't exist. Their hull can apparently change its properties at will, becoming harder than diamond or softer than water, depending on what they need. Chief Engineer Kate Williams joined the conversation over the comm system. Ben, I'm seeing the same readings down here. Their power system is incredible. They're using some kind of zero-point energy extraction. We've theorized about it, but they've actually built it. Lisa looked between her science officer and the comm unit. So their technology is more advanced than ours? In some ways, yes, Ben said. But in others, we're far ahead of them. Their weapons are elegant and efficient, but they don't have nearly as much destructive power as ours. And their defenses are sophisticated, but they wouldn't stop our main guns. Kate's voice came through the comm again. Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting massive subspace transmissions coming from their ship. They're sending a lot of data somewhere. Lisa felt a chill. What kind of data? Unknown. It's heavily encrypted. But based on the transmission patterns, I think they're sending information about us to other locations. On the Zephyrian ship, Veltar was doing exactly that. He had opened emergency channels to every Zephyrian outpost within 100 light years. The message was simple but urgent. Encountered unknown species with impossible technology. Request immediate council notification and fleet support. The responses came back quickly. Other Zephyrian commanders wanted details. How impossible was the technology? Were the humans hostile? Should evacuation procedures begin? Veltar didn't know how to answer these questions. The humans seemed friendly enough, but their ship was a weapon of mass destruction unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Commander, Korthven said quietly, there's something else you should know. What now? I've been analyzing their reactor signature more closely. This isn't their most advanced ship. What do you mean? The power systems show signs of mass production. This is a standard design, probably one of hundreds or thousands of identical ships. Commander, if this is their patrol vessel, what do their warships look like? Veltar felt the last of his courage drain away. If the humans had built hundreds of ships like this one, the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically. And if this was considered a minor patrol ship, he forced himself to return to the diplomatic conversation. Captain Morgan was still waiting patiently on the main screen. My apologies, Captain. I was receiving reports from my crew. No problem at all, Commander. Is everything all right? Veltar looked at the human captain's friendly smile and wondered if she had any idea how much fear her ship had just caused. Everything is fine, Captain. I was wondering, is your vessel typical of human design? Lisa nodded. The Iron Dawn is a standard frontier patrol ship. Nothing special about her, really. We have about 300 ships of this class protecting human space. 300. Veltar tried to keep his expression neutral, but inside, he was calculating. 300 ships like this one could conquer the entire galaxy without breathing hard. And your more advanced warships? Lisa looked confused. More advanced? Commander, the Iron Dawn is one of our newer ships. We do have some older designs, but they're being phased out. Most of our military is transitioning to ships like this one. Veltar realized with growing horror that Captain Morgan was telling him this was actually an improvement over older human technology. The galaxy wasn't just facing one impossible ship, it was facing an entire civilization that built impossible ships as a matter of routine. Commander? Lisa asked, noticing his silence. Is something wrong? No, Captain, Veltar managed to say. Nothing is wrong at all. But as he spoke, emergency signals were already racing across the galaxy, carrying news that would change everything forever. The emergency transmission from Scout Commander Veltar reached the Zephyrian homeworld within 6 hours. From there, it took only minutes to spread across the galactic communication network to every major civilization. The message was short, but it contained sensor data that would keep scientists and military leaders awake for weeks. On the ancient world of Prima Sanctum, seat of the Galactic Council, High Counselor Threshkael of the Etherian Empire was enjoying a quiet evening when the alert arrived. The Etherians were old, even by galactic standards. They had been exploring space when most other species were still learning to make fire. Threshkael himself had lived for over 800 years and thought he had seen everything the galaxy could offer. He was wrong. High Counselor, his aide interrupted, we have received an emergency transmission from the Outer Rim. Priority classification, Galaxy Threat Level. Threshkael sighed and set down his evening meal. Galaxy Threat Level alerts were rare. The last one had been issued 300 years ago when a rogue artificial intelligence had tried to consume an entire solar system. What is the nature of this threat? Unknown species contact, sir. The Zephyrians have encountered a new civilization with unusual technology. Define unusual. The aide activated a holographic display showing the sensor data from Veltar's ship. Threshkael studied the readings for a long moment, then studied them again.
Then he studied them a third time.
These readings are incorrect, he said finally. Sir, they have been verified by 3 separate Zephyrian science vessels. The data is accurate. Threshkael felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: fear. According to this data, a single ship belonging to an unknown species had more firepower than the entire Etherian fleet. Not only that, but their technology seemed to ignore several fundamental laws of physics. Call an emergency session of the Council, he ordered. Send this data to every member species immediately. And contact our military commanders. They need to see this. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. On the insectoid world of Hive Prime, Queen Mother Zaktich emerged from her spawning chamber to find her military advisors in a state of panic. The scan data showed weapon signatures that could sterilize entire hive clusters in seconds. How many ships do these humans possess? She clicked in the complex language of her people. Unknown, Queen Mother. But their representative indicated this was a standard patrol vessel. If they have many such ships. Zaktich's massive compound eyes reflected the glow of the tactical displays. Her people had survived for millions of years by being careful, by avoiding conflicts they couldn't win. But how do you avoid a conflict with beings who could destroy your entire civilization without effort? In the crystal cities of the Resonance Collective, harmonious tones that had rung pure for centuries suddenly turned discordant. The collective existed as linked consciousness, sharing thoughts and emotions across vast distances. Now that connection carried fear from one end of their territory to the other. The entities of the void swimmers, who lived in the gas clouds around giant stars, felt the vibrations of panic through the cosmic medium itself. Their ancient songs, which had told stories of galactic peace for 1,000 years, began to include new verses about creatures from the dark between the stars who built ships from the hearts of dead suns. But it was on the warworld of Crimson Hold that the news had the most immediate effect. General Weixthera of the Crimson Hegemony was reviewing invasion plans for a minor border dispute when her intelligence officers burst into the command center. "General," the lead officer said, breathing hard from running, "we have a situation. A big situation." Weixthera was a veteran of 50 campaigns. She had conquered 12 worlds and defended twice that many. Nothing surprised her anymore. "Show me." The holographic display activated, showing the scan data from the human ship. Weixthera studied it with the eye of a professional soldier. After 30 years of warfare, she could assess any enemy's capabilities within minutes. It took her less than 1 minute to realize that everything she knew about warfare had just become obsolete. "This ship," she said slowly, "could destroy our entire fleet." "Yes, General." "By itself." "Yes, General." "Without taking damage." "According to these readings, yes." Weixthera had built her career on being tough, on never backing down from a fight. But she wasn't stupid. Cancel all military operations. Recall every ship to defensive positions around our home world. And send word to the Council. The Hegemony formally requests an emergency session. On Prima Sanctum, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the Great Council Chamber. The hall, which usually echoed with debates about trade routes and territorial disputes, was silent except for the quiet hum of translation devices. High Counselor Thresh Kael stood at the center of the chamber, the holographic display showing the human ship floating above him. "Fellow counselors," he began, "we face an unprecedented situation." Ambassador Quillith of the Hive Worlds raised one of her 4 arms. "The data must be in error. No single ship can possess this level of technology." "The data has been verified by multiple sources," Thresh Kael replied. "The readings are accurate." Representative Colmoth of the Void Swimmers spoke in tones that resonated through the chamber. "If this data is correct, then we face a species that has surpassed every known limit of physical law. How is this possible?" "That question is less important than what we do about it," said General Vextar of the Crimson Hegemony, attending the session by hologram from his warworld. "This single ship represents a threat to every civilization in the galaxy." "You speak of threat," sang the harmonic voice of the Resonance Collective speaker. "But have these humans shown hostile intent?" Thresh Kael consulted his notes. "According to the Zephyrian report, they seem peaceful. Their captain expressed hope for friendly relations." "Then why are we treating them as enemies?" asked Ambassador Quillith. General Vextar's image flickered with static as his emotions affected the transmission. "Because, Ambassador, a being who carries a planet-killer weapon is dangerous, whether they intend to use it or not. And according to this data, these humans don't just carry planet killers. They carry galaxy killers." The chamber fell silent again as the representatives contemplated this. Many of them came from species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years. They had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, the ebb and flow of galactic politics. But none of them had ever encountered anything like this. "What are our options?" Thresh Kael asked. "We could attempt to negotiate," suggested the Etherian military attaché. "Offer them membership in the Council, make them our allies rather than our enemies." "We could try to contain them," General Vextar countered. "Surround their space with monitoring stations, prevent them from expanding." "With what?" Ambassador Quillith asked. "According to this data, our combined fleets couldn't stop a single human patrol ship." The truth of that statement settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. For the first time in galactic history, they faced a species that was simply beyond their ability to oppose. "There is one other option," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Ancient Mordun of the Deep Thinkers, a species so old that they rarely bothered with galactic politics anymore. "We could surrender." "Surrender?" General Vextar's image flared with anger. "Without a fight." "What fight?" Ancient Mordun's voice was calm, resigned. They have already won. They simply don't know it yet. High Counselor Thresh KL looked around the chamber at the faces of the galaxy's leaders. Fear was etched on every one of them. These were beings who commanded star fleets, who ruled over billions of subjects, who had shaped the course of galactic civilization for millennia. And all of them were terrified of a single human patrol ship. We will take no immediate action, he decided. But I want every intelligence service in the galaxy focused on these humans. We need to know everything, how many ships they have, where they come from, what their intentions are. Until we understand them better, we must assume they represent the greatest threat our civilization has ever faced. As the council session ended and the representatives returned to their ships, a single thought echoed across the galaxy. Everything had changed. The age of galactic peace, built on the balance of roughly equal civilizations, was over. The age of human dominance had begun, and the humans didn't even know it yet. Dr. Amanda Stone had always dreamed of this moment. As the Iron Dawn's lead xenoarchaeologist, she had spent years studying theoretical alien cultures, wondering what humanity might find when it finally reached the stars. Now, sitting across from Scout Commander Veltar in the ship's conference room, she felt like a child on Christmas morning. "So tell me about galactic civilization," she said, her tablet ready to record everything. "How many species are there? How long have you been in contact with each other?" Veltar seemed nervous, though Amanda didn't know why. He kept glancing at his own recording device, as if he expected it to explode. "There are many species, Dr. Stone. Over 300 intelligent races are members of the Galactic Council." 300. Amanda's eyes lit up. "That's incredible. How do you all get along?" "We have had peace for over 2,000 years, Veltar said carefully. 2,000 years of peace? How is that possible?" Veltar was quiet for a moment. Amanda could see him thinking, choosing his words carefully. "Dr. Stone, may I ask you something first? Your ship, the Iron Dawn, is it a military vessel?" "Yes, it's a frontier patrol ship. Why do you ask?" "And Captain Morgan, she commands warriors?" Amanda laughed. "Well, they're soldiers, yes. But the Iron Dawn is really more like a police patrol car than a warship. We keep the peace in human space, help ships in trouble, that sort of thing." Veltar's expression grew even more troubled. "Dr. Stone, in galactic civilization there is an understanding. All species develop technology at roughly the same rate. When we encounter each other, our capabilities are similar. This creates balance." "That makes sense," Amanda said, making notes. "Natural selection would favor similar solutions to similar problems." "Exactly. And when all species have similar power, war becomes pointless. No one can win a fight when everyone is equally strong. So we developed peaceful ways to resolve conflicts." Amanda nodded. It sounded like a wonderful system. But surely there must be some variation in technology levels? "Small variations, yes. The Etherians are perhaps 10% more advanced in some areas. The Void Swimmers have better understanding of gravitational fields. But these differences are minor. Until what?" Veltar looked directly at her for the first time since the conversation began. "Dr. Stone, your ship should not exist." Amanda blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "According to everything we know about technological development, your ship represents impossible advancement. You should not be able to build such things for another 1,000 years, perhaps more." "I don't understand. The Iron Dawn is just a regular patrol ship. It's not even one of our newer designs." Veltar's face went pale. "Not newer?" "Oh no, she's about 15 years old. We have much more advanced ships now, but the Iron Dawn is still perfectly serviceable for patrol duty." On the bridge, Captain Morgan was having her own educational conversation with Commander Jake Sullivan. They had been discussing the implications of first contact when Ben Parker approached with a worried expression. "Captain," Ben said quietly, "I've been analyzing our communications with the alien ship. I think they're scared of us." "Scared? Why would they be scared?" Lisa asked. "Look at their transmission patterns." Ben showed her his data pad. "Every few minutes, They send burst transmissions to what I think are military outposts. The message format matches standard military alert protocols. Jake frowned. Maybe they're just reporting our contact to their superiors. That's what I thought at first, Ben said. But I've been monitoring their ship's power levels. Every time we move or make any adjustment to our systems, their reactor output spikes. They're going to battle readiness. Lisa stared at the data. But we haven't done anything threatening. Captain, Ben said slowly, I think we exist as threatening to them. Back in the conference room, Amanda was trying to understand Veltar's growing distress. Commander, I still don't understand what's so impossible about our technology. Veltar activated his own data pad and showed her a holographic display. This is a typical galactic starship, he said, pointing to an elegant, curved vessel. It can travel between star systems, defend itself against pirates, and carry perhaps 50 crew members. Amanda studied the display. The alien ship was beautiful, but it looked fragile compared to human designs. How fast can it travel? In hyperspace, about 10 times the speed of light. The Iron Dawn can do about 50 times light speed, Amanda said casually. Veltar's hands shook. 50 times? Yes, though that's not very fast by our standards. Our newest ships can do over 100 times light speed. Veltar set down his data pad and stared at her. Dr. Stone, do you have any idea how your people develop such advanced technology? Amanda shrugged. I'm not an engineer, but I think it's just natural human curiosity. We've always been good at solving problems and building things. Why? Because, Veltar said quietly, every other species in the galaxy took 50,000 years to develop hyperspace travel. According to our records, humans have been spacefaring for less than 200 years. Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. That seems fast. It is impossible, Veltar said. Dr. Stone, your species has compressed 50,000 years of technological development into 2 centuries. You have broken every known law of technological advancement. How is that possible? Veltar looked at her with something that might have been fear or respect or both. We don't know. That's what terrifies us. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the fear that Veltar spoke of was spreading like wildfire. On the warworld of Crimson Hold, General Wyexthra was meeting with her top military advisors. The holographic display in the center of the room showed tactical projections based on the scanned data from a human ship. Tell me our options, she ordered. Her chief of staff, Colonel Regthan, activated different sections of the display. We could attempt a preemptive strike with our entire fleet. Probability of success? Less than 1%. Their point defense systems would destroy our missiles before they reached their ship. And their main weapons could eliminate our fleet from a range where our weapons couldn't even reach them. Defensive options? We could retreat all our forces to the core worlds and hope they don't pursue. For how long? Until they decide to attack us. Wyexthra studied the projections in silence. She had built her career on finding ways to win impossible battles. But this wasn't an impossible battle. It was no battle at all. On the crystal world of the Resonance Collective, a different kind of meeting was taking place. The linked consciousness of the crystal beings was experiencing something it had never felt before, unanimous fear. Their harmonic voices, usually perfectly synchronized, wavered with uncertainty. The humans represent chaos, sang one voice. They break the natural order. They are an evolutionary impossibility, harmonized another. A species cannot advance this quickly without destroying itself. Yet they have advanced, sang a third. And they have not destroyed themselves. What does this mean for our understanding of the universe? The collective consciousness struggled with this question. For millions of years, they had believed that technological advancement followed natural laws, just like gravity or thermodynamics. The humans seemed to violate those laws as casually as they violated the speed of light. Back on the Iron Dawn, Dr. Stone was beginning to understand the magnitude of what was happening. Commander Veltar, she said slowly, are you telling me that humanity's technology is so advanced that it's frightening other species? Dr. Stone, Veltar replied, your patrol ship could conquer the entire galaxy. If your species wanted to, you could rule over every world, every civilization, every living being we know of. And, according to Captain Morgan, you have hundreds of such ships. Amanda felt the blood drain from her face. But we don't want to conquer anyone. We just want to explore, to learn, to make friends.
I believe you, Veltar said.
But Dr. Stone, when someone carries a weapon that can destroy worlds, their intentions become less important than their capabilities. What can we do? Veltar was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he said finally. I truly don't know. And across the galaxy, 300 civilizations asked themselves the same question, with the same terrifying answer. They didn't know either. Captain Lisa Morgan stood in her ready room, reading Dr. Stone's preliminary report on galactic civilization. The more she read, the more confused she became. According to Amanda's notes, the galaxy was full of intelligent species, living in perfect peace. It sounded wonderful, but something didn't add up. Jake, she called to her first officer over the comm system. Could you come to my ready room? I want to discuss something with you. Commander Jake Sullivan arrived within minutes. He found Lisa staring out the viewport at the Zephyrian ship, which was maintaining a careful distance from the Iron Dawn. What's on your mind, Captain? Jake asked, settling into the chair across from her desk. I've been reading Amanda's report about galactic civilization, Lisa said, handing him the data pad. Something bothers me about it. Jake scanned through the report quickly. It all sounds pretty peaceful. 2,000 years without major wars. That's what bothers me, Lisa said. In human history, the longest periods of peace lasted maybe 50 or 60 years. And that was just on Earth. How does an entire galaxy maintain peace for 2,000 years?
Jake thought about it.
Maybe they're more evolved than we are. More civilized. Or maybe, Lisa said slowly, they're afraid to fight. Afraid? Of what? Lisa turned to face him. Jake, what happens when you put two equal opponents in a ring? They fight until one of them wins, or they both get tired.
Right.
But what happens when you put a heavyweight boxer in the ring with a 5-year-old child? Jake's eyes widened as he understood. There's no fight. The boxer wins without even trying.
Exactly.
And if every species in the galaxy has roughly the same technology level, then every conflict becomes a stalemate. Nobody fights because nobody can win. But Captain, Jake said, according to these scans, we're not equal to the other species. We're the heavyweight boxer. Lisa felt a chill run through her. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. Down in engineering, Chief Engineer Kate Williams was having her own revelations. She had been studying the sensor data from the Zephyrian ship, trying to understand their technology. What she found amazed and worried her in equal measure. Ben, she called over the comm to the science station on the bridge. Are you seeing what I'm seeing in these alien ship scans? You mean how elegant their technology is? Ben's voice came back. Yeah, it's incredible. They've solved problems we're still working on. That's not what I mean, Kate said. Ben, look at their power consumption levels. There was a pause as Ben reviewed the data. Oh my God, he said finally. Kate, their entire ship runs on less power than we use just for life support. Exactly. They've perfected efficiency. Every system is optimized to use the minimum amount of energy necessary. While we just brute force everything with raw power, Ben said, understanding dawning in his voice. Kate nodded, even though Ben couldn't see her. It's like comparing a race car to a freight train. The race car is faster, more elegant, more efficient. But if they crash into each other, the freight train wins, Ben finished. On the bridge, Lieutenant Sam Carter was monitoring communications between the two ships. As the communications officer, he was responsible for maintaining the diplomatic channels that Dr. Stone was using for her cultural exchange. But he was also responsible for monitoring any other communications that might be taking place. And there were a lot of other communications. Captain, he called to Lisa over the comm system. I think you should see something. Lisa and Jake returned to the bridge to find Sam looking troubled at his station. What is it, Lieutenant? Lisa asked. Captain, the alien ship is transmitting almost constantly. Not to us, but to other locations throughout the galaxy. What kind of transmissions? Sam showed her his displays. Heavily encrypted data bursts. But based on the transmission patterns and the frequency, I think they're military communications. Jake frowned. Are they calling for backup? It's possible, sir. But the transmissions are going to dozens of different locations. If they were just calling for backup, they'd probably contact one military command. Lisa studied the communication patterns. Sam, how long have these transmissions been going on? Since about 10 minutes after we made first contact, Captain. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. 10 minutes. That's about how long it took them to complete their first full sensor scan of our ship. The implications hung heavy in the air. The aliens had scanned the Iron Dawn and immediately started sending urgent messages throughout the galaxy. Captain, Ben called from the science station, I'm detecting multiple ships moving toward our position. How many? Hard to say. They're still beyond our sensor range, but I'm picking up hyperspace signatures. At least a dozen ships, possibly more. Lisa felt the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders. The peaceful first contact she had hoped for was starting to look like something else entirely. Jake, raise our alert level to yellow. All departments, prepare for possible combat. Aye, Captain, Jake said, but he looked troubled. Captain, should we consider retreating?
Lisa thought about it.
The Iron Dawn could easily outrun any pursuit, but running away from humanity's first contact with alien intelligence would send the wrong message. No, we stay. But I want everyone ready for anything. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Peter Hayes was preparing for casualties that he hoped would never come. As the ship's chief medical officer, he had treated injuries from accidents, training exercises, and even a few pirate encounters. But he had never treated injuries from a battle with aliens. Computer, he said to the ship's AI system, display all available data on Zephyrian biology. The computer's voice responded immediately. Limited data available. Zephyrian physiology appears similar to human baseline, but with significant differences in cellular structure and nervous system organization. Can our medical scanners analyze their biology? Negative. Zephyrian cellular matrix does not respond to standard Federation medical scanning technology. Peter sighed. If fighting started, he wouldn't even be able to treat alien wounded. Not that he expected to see any alien wounded. If the Iron Dawn went into battle, there probably wouldn't be enough left of the enemy ships to require medical attention. That thought disturbed him more than he wanted to admit. Back in the conference room, Dr. Stone was continuing her cultural exchange with Veltar, unaware of the growing tension on both ships. She was fascinated by what she was learning about galactic history. So, you're saying that war has become obsolete because all species reached similar technology levels? She asked. Veltar nodded, though he seemed distracted. When everyone has similar capabilities, conflict becomes pointless. No one can achieve a decisive victory, so disputes are resolved through negotiation and compromise. That's wonderful, Amanda said. It sounds like a perfect system. It was, Veltar said quietly. Until now. What do you mean? Veltar looked at her with what Amanda was beginning to recognize as fear. Dr. Stone, your species doesn't fit the pattern. You have capabilities far beyond what should be possible. You have disrupted the balance that kept the galaxy peaceful. But we don't want to disrupt anything, Amanda protested. We just want to join galactic civilization as equals. Dr. Stone, Veltar said gently, you cannot join as equals because you are not equal. You are superior in every way that matters. And that superiority, even if you don't intend to use it, changes everything. Amanda felt a cold fear growing in her stomach. What are you saying? I am saying, Veltar replied, that the galaxy is about to change in ways that none of us can predict. And I am not certain that any of us will like what it becomes. On the bridge of the Iron Dawn, Captain Morgan watched the approaching alien ships on her tactical display. There were 18 of them now, and more were coming. She didn't know if they were coming to welcome humanity to galactic civilization or to prevent humanity from joining it at all. Captain, Ben called from his station, the lead ship is hailing us. Put it on screen. The main viewer showed the bridge of an alien warship. The creature at the center of the screen was different from Veltar, larger, with darker skin, and what looked like military decorations on its uniform. "I am Fleet Commander Zekthar of the Galactic Defense Force," the alien said. "Human vessel, you will power down your weapons and submit to inspection." Lisa felt her jaw tighten. "Commander, this is Captain Morgan of the Earth's ship Iron Dawn. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration." "Your intentions are irrelevant, Captain Morgan. Your capabilities are what concern us." Lisa looked around her bridge, at the faces of her crew. They were good people, trained professionals who had signed up to explore the galaxy and defend human interests. None of them had signed up to be seen as monsters by the rest of the galaxy. "Commander Zekthar," she said carefully, "we have no desire for conflict. We simply wish to establish peaceful relations with galactic civilization." "That may be true, Captain. But your ship represents a level of technology that threatens every species in the galaxy. We cannot allow you to leave this system until the Council decides what to do about you." And there it was. Humanity's first contact with galactic civilization, and they were already prisoners. Across the galaxy, ancient communication networks that hadn't carried military traffic in centuries suddenly blazed with urgent messages. The news of humanity's existence spread like wildfire through every major civilization, and with it came a question that no one had asked in over 2,000 years. How do we prepare for war? On the Etherian home world of Thelandris, High Admiral Kethmorn stood before a tactical display that showed the disposition of forces throughout Etherian space. The display hadn't been used for military planning in his lifetime, or his father's lifetime, or his father's father's lifetime. Now it showed the locations of 300 Etherian vessels being hastily converted from exploration ships back to their original warship configurations. "Admiral," his aide reported, "the Council has authorized full military mobilization. All reserve fleets are being activated." Kethmorn studied the display with growing dread. The Etherian fleet was impressive by galactic standards, 300 ships, each one a masterpiece of engineering and design. They could probably defeat any other single species in the galaxy. But according to the sensor data from the human ship, his entire fleet might not be able to defeat one human patrol vessel. "What about our allies?" he asked. "The collective has pledged their full support. The Void Swimmers are mobilizing their deep space fleets. Even the Hive worlds are calling up their war swarms." Kethmore nodded, but he felt no comfort from this news. United, the galactic fleets represented over 10,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled. But he couldn't shake the feeling that it still wouldn't be enough. In the depths of space between the stars, Admiral Zethmore of the Void Swimmer fleet was thinking similar thoughts. The Void Swimmers were perhaps the most militarily capable species in the galaxy, their ships designed for the harsh environment of interstellar space, where even the slightest mistake could mean death. "Fleet status report," Zethmore commanded in the harmonious tones of his people. "All deep space squadrons are converging on the rendezvous point," his tactical officer responded. "We will have 800 ships ready for combat within 6 rotations." "And the other fleets?" "The Etherian fleet will join us in 10 rotations. The collective's crystal ships will arrive in 12. The Crimson Hegemony is still mobilizing, but they promise 500 ships within 15 rotations." Zethmore floated in the zero-gravity command center of his flagship, surrounded by displays showing ship positions throughout the galaxy. Never before had so many species coordinated military action. The unity was impressive, but it was unity born of fear. "Admiral," his intelligence officer interrupted, "we have received new data from the observation post near the human contact." "Show me." The display changed to show the Iron Dawn surrounded by the ships of Fleet Commander Zekthar's task force. 18 alien vessels in a loose formation around the single human ship. To most observers, it would look like the humans were outnumbered and outgunned. Zethmore knew better. "Intelligence assessment?" he asked. "The human ship has not activated any weapon systems, but our sensors detect massive power buildups in what we believe are their defensive systems. They appear to be preparing for battle." "And our ships?" Fleet Commander Zekthar reports that his task force is maintaining minimum safe distance. Any closer and the human ship's weapons could destroy his entire fleet in seconds. Zethmore studied the tactical situation with growing frustration. They had 18 ships against one, and they were the ones afraid to get close. What about reinforcements? Additional fleets are en route, Admiral. Within 3 rotations, we will have over 200 ships in that system. Will it be enough? The intelligence officer was quiet for a moment. Unknown, Admiral. We have no way to accurately assess human defensive capabilities. Their technology appears to violate several basic principles of physics. On the war world of Crimson Hold, General HFY was facing a similar problem. Her military had spent centuries perfecting the art of conquest, but all of their experience was based on fighting enemies with comparable technology. The humans represented something entirely different. General, her chief of staff reported, all available ships have been called to active duty. The home fleet, the border patrol, even the training squadrons. Total strength: 547 combat vessels, plus support ships. HFY nodded grimly. It was the largest force the hegemony had ever assembled. In the old days before galactic peace, it would have been enough to conquer a dozen worlds. Now, she wasn't sure it would be enough to stop a single human ship. What about ground forces? All planetary defense corps have been activated. Marine divisions are being deployed to key worlds. But, General? The chief of staff hesitated. Speak freely. If the humans can build ships like that, what do their ground forces look like? Our best weapons might not even scratch their armor. It was a thought that had been haunting HFY's dreams. The human ship's hull was made of materials that shouldn't exist. What kind of weapons did beings with that level of technology carry into battle? Back near human space, Fleet Commander Zekthar was discovering just how nerve-wracking it could be to hold a superior force hostage. His 18 ships maintained their positions around the Iron Dawn, but he was increasingly aware that he was like a pack of wolves surrounding a sleeping dragon. Commander, his tactical officer reported, the human ship is requesting permission to send a message to their home world. Denied. No communications beyond this system until the Council decides what to do with them. Sir, they insist it's just a routine check-in report. Zekthar studied the human ship on his main screen. It looked so ordinary, so unremarkable. But the sensor readings told a different story. If we let them contact their home world, how long before more human ships arrive? Unknown, sir. We have no data on their response times or fleet deployment. Then we take no chances. Maintain communications blackout. On the Iron Dawn, Captain Morgan was becoming increasingly frustrated with the situation. Sam, she called to her communications officer. Any luck getting a message through to Earth? No, Captain. They're jamming all our communications. I can't even send a basic navigation update. Lisa looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were maintaining their professionalism, but she could see the tension building. They were used to being the ones in control of a situation, not the ones being held against their will. Captain, Ben Parker called from the science station, I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures throughout this sector. Looks like more ships are arriving. How many more? Hard to say. At least 50, possibly more. And Captain. Ben paused, checking his readings again. Some of these signatures are huge. Much larger than anything we've seen so far. Jake Sullivan moved to stand beside Lisa's command chair. Captain, maybe we should consider our options. What options, Jake? We could break out of here. Our speed advantage means they couldn't follow us. Lisa considered it. The Iron Dawn could easily outrun any pursuit and be back in human space within days. But running would send the wrong message. It would make humanity look guilty of something. No, she decided. We stay. We're not criminals, and we're not going to act like criminals. Even if they're treating us like criminals? Especially then. In his ready room, Dr. Stone was finishing her latest conversation with Veltar. The Zephyrian scout commander looked more worried than ever. Commander, Amanda said, can you tell me what's happening out there? We're detecting a lot of ship movements. Veltar sighed. Dr. Stone, Every major military force in the galaxy is converging on this system. Military force? Why? Because, Veltar said sadly, they are afraid of you. But we haven't done anything threatening. Your existence is threatening, Dr. Stone. Your ship represents a level of technological advancement that makes every other species in the galaxy feel helpless. Even if you have no hostile intentions, the capability for hostility is enough to terrify them. Amanda felt tears forming in her eyes. This isn't how it was supposed to happen. First contact was supposed to be peaceful, friendly. We were supposed to join galactic civilization as equals. You cannot join as equals when you are not equal, Veltar said gently. And Dr. Stone, there is something else you should know. What? The Council is debating whether to demand that your species limit its technological development. They want you to agree to stop building ships like this one. Amanda stared at him in shock. They want us to intentionally limit our own progress? They want to preserve the balance that has kept the galaxy peaceful for 2,000 years. And if we refuse? Veltar was quiet for a long moment. Then I fear the galaxy will face its first major war in 2 millennia. Outside, the alien fleets continued to gather. Hundreds of ships, then thousands, all converging on one small system where a single human patrol vessel waited. The largest military mobilization in galactic history, all because of one routine first contact that had gone terribly, terribly wrong. And at the center of it all, Captain Lisa Morgan and her crew of 200 humans had no idea that their very existence had just brought the galaxy to the brink of war. High Counselor Thresh Kael stood in the council chamber on Prima Sanctum, watching the holographic display that showed the growing fleet around the human ship. Over 3,000 vessels now surrounded the Iron Dawn, representing every major military force in the galaxy. It was the largest concentration of firepower in galactic history, and it was all focused on a single alien patrol ship. The situation is becoming unstable, Admiral Keth Morn reported via hologram from his flagship. My officers are requesting permission to return to defensive positions around our homeworlds. As are mine, added Admiral Zuthmore. Keeping this many ships in one location is dangerous. If something goes wrong, Thresh Kael understood their concern. Never before had so many potential enemies been gathered in such a small space. Old rivalries and territorial disputes that had been peacefully managed for centuries were creating tension among the fleet commanders. The longer they stayed together, the more likely it became that they would start fighting each other instead of focusing on the human threat. We need to resolve this situation quickly, Thresh Kael decided. But first, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Ambassador Quillith of the Hive Worlds raised one of her arms. High Counselor, we have the sensor data. We know the human ship's capabilities. We have estimates based on passive scans, Thresh Kael corrected. But we don't know what their technology can actually do in a combat situation. General Vextar's holographic image flickered with static as his emotions affected the transmission. High Counselor, are you suggesting we attack them? No, Thresh Kael said carefully. I am suggesting we test them. The chamber fell silent as the representatives contemplated this. Testing the humans meant provoking them, and provoking them might be the last mistake galactic civilization ever made. What kind of test? Asked the harmonic voice of the collective's representative. Thresh Kael activated his own display, showing the positions of ships around the Iron Dawn. We send our most advanced warship to escort the human vessel to neutral space for formal negotiations. During the escort, we, accidentally, test their defensive systems. That's insane, General Vextar protested. If we attack them, even accidentally, they might destroy us all. If we don't test them, Thresh Kael replied, we'll never know what we're truly facing. Better to learn now, while we still have options. After hours of debate, the Council reached a decision. The Etherian Superdreadnought Eternal Dominion would approach the human ship and offer to escort them to Prima Sanctum for formal first contact negotiations. During the journey, a carefully planned system malfunction would test the human ship's defensive capabilities. Captain Lisa Morgan was in her ready room when the communication came through. Lieutenant Sam Carter's voice came over the comm system with barely controlled excitement. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from one of the larger alien vessels. They want to talk to you personally. Lisa made her way to the bridge, where the main screen showed the most impressive alien she had seen yet. The creature was tall and graceful, with pale skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Its uniform was covered with decorations that suggested high rank. "I am Fleet Admiral Mordyneth of the Etherian Empire," the alien said in perfect, unaccented English. "Captain Morgan, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I invite you to accompany my ship to Prima Sanctum for formal first contact negotiations." Lisa felt a surge of hope. Finally, a chance to resolve this situation peacefully. "Admiral, we would be honored to accept your invitation." "Excellent. My ship, the Eternal Dominion, will escort you safely to our capital world. Please follow our navigation signals." On the main screen, Lisa watched as a massive alien warship moved into position near the Iron Dawn. The vessel was enormous, at least 15 kilometers long and covered with what looked like weapons emplacements. But its movements were graceful, almost dance-like. "That's the biggest ship I've ever seen," Jake whispered. Ben Parker was studying his sensor readings with growing amazement. "Captain, this ship represents the absolute pinnacle of their technology. Every system is perfect, every component optimized. It's like a work of art. How does it compare to us?" Lisa asked. Ben was quiet for a moment. "It's beautiful, Captain, but it's still using the same basic technology as the smaller ships, just scaled up. More elegant, more refined, but not fundamentally different." Which means it's still no match for us," Ben said quietly. The journey to hyperspace began smoothly. The Eternal Dominion led the way, while the Iron Dawn followed at a respectful distance. Around them, the massive alien fleet maintained formation, thousands of ships moving in perfect coordination. Dr. Stone was in the observation lounge, watching the alien ships through the viewport. She had been working with Veltar to prepare for the formal negotiations on Prima Sanctum, but her heart was heavy. The diplomatic meeting felt more like a trial than a celebration of first contact. "Dr. Stone," Veltar said quietly, "I must warn you about something." "What is it, Commander?" "The Council is concerned about your ship's capabilities. They may demand proof that humanity can be trusted with such advanced technology." "What kind of proof?" Veltar looked uncomfortable. "I am not certain. But Dr. Stone, if they ask you to demonstrate your weapons..." "We would never do that," Amanda said quickly. "We're not here to threaten anyone. I believe you, but the Council may not see it that way." On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Mordyneth was reviewing the test plan with his officers. The malfunction would occur in 20 minutes, when they were far enough from the main fleet to avoid collateral damage. "Admiral," his weapons officer reported, "all systems are ready. The malfunction will appear completely accidental. Casualties?
Minimal.
The human ship's point defense systems should be able to stop our projectiles easily, assuming the sensor data is accurate." "And if the sensor data is wrong?" The weapons officer was quiet for a moment. "Then we will discover that very quickly, Admiral." Mordyneth studied the human ship on his displays. It looked so small compared to his massive dreadnought, but he knew appearances could be deceiving. If the sensor readings were accurate, that small ship carried enough firepower to destroy his vessel and half the fleet behind them. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out, "we have a problem. Main power coupling is showing signs of instability." Mordyneth felt his heart skip a beat. This wasn't part of the plan. "Can you compensate?" "Trying, sir, but the coupling is cascading. We're losing power to the main weapon systems." On the Iron Dawn, Ben Parker suddenly straightened at his console. "Captain, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the escort ship." "What kind of fluctuations?" "Looks like a cascade failure in their main systems." "Captain, their weapons are powering up, but it doesn't look controlled." Lisa felt her blood turn cold. Battle stations. All hands to battle stations. Alarms began blaring throughout the Iron Dawn as the crew rushed to their emergency positions. On the main screen, the Eternal Dominion was clearly in distress, energy discharges dancing along its hull. "Captain," Ben called out urgently, "their weapons are firing." The Eternal Dominion's main batteries discharged in a brilliant flash of energy. 800 projectiles, each one capable of destroying a small moon, raced toward the Iron Dawn at a significant fraction of light speed. What happened next took exactly 2.3 seconds. The Iron Dawn's point defense system, designed to protect against asteroid impacts and pirate attacks, identified the incoming projectiles and responded automatically. 2,000 micro-railguns swiveled toward the threat and began firing. Each railgun could fire 100 rounds per second, and each round could destroy a small vehicle. The projectiles from the Eternal Dominion never got within 1,000 kilometers of the Iron Dawn. They were intercepted and destroyed so efficiently that it looked like they had simply vanished in flashes of light. But the Iron Dawn's defensive systems weren't finished. The ship's tactical computer, designed to respond to threats with overwhelming force, identified the Eternal Dominion as hostile and prepared a response. The main batteries, each one capable of cracking a planet's crust, swiveled toward the alien dreadnought. "No!" Lisa shouted. "Weapons hold. Do not fire." Kate Williams, monitoring from engineering, had already begun emergency shutdown procedures for the main guns. "Captain, I'm taking the main batteries offline manually." The Iron Dawn's weapons powered down just as they were about to fire, but not before they had locked onto the Eternal Dominion. For a brief moment, the alien superdreadnought had been in the crosshairs of weapons that could have vaporized it instantly. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, Admiral Mordineth stared at his damage control displays in shock. His ship's shields, designed to withstand the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, had been penetrated like paper. The human ship's point defense systems had not only stopped his projectiles, but had somehow reached through his shields and disabled half his weapon systems. "Damage report," he ordered, his voice shaking. "Sir, main weapons offline, secondary batteries destroyed, shield generators operating at 12% efficiency. We're defenseless." "How is that possible? They didn't even fire their main weapons." "Sir," his science officer said quietly, "I don't think that was their main weapons. According to these readings, what just happened was their automatic defensive response. Their actual weapons never activated." Mordineth sank into his command chair as the full implications hit him. The test had worked perfectly. They now knew exactly what humanity's technology could do. It was so far beyond galactic capabilities that the test had become a demonstration of hopelessness. On the Iron Dawn, Captain Morgan was trying to contact the alien dreadnought. "Admiral Mordineth, please respond. Do you require assistance?" The response came back weak and full of static. "Captain Morgan, this is Admiral Mordineth. We have suffered a malfunction. No assistance is required." Lisa could hear the fear in the alien's voice. "Admiral, I'm showing significant damage to your vessel. We can render aid if needed." There was a long pause before Mordineth responded. "Captain, I think it would be best if we return to Prima Sanctum immediately. The Council needs to hear about this." As the damaged Eternal Dominion limped toward the capital world, followed by the pristine Iron Dawn, word of the encounter raced through the assembled fleets. The test had answered the question that every species in the galaxy had been asking. Humanity's technology wasn't just advanced. It was absolutely, terrifyingly superior. The age of balance was over. The Great Council chamber on Prima Sanctum had never been so quiet. Representatives from 300 species sat in stunned silence as Admiral Mordineth finished his report on the encounter with the human ship. The holographic display showing the battle data flickered and disappeared, leaving only the weight of terrible knowledge. High Counselor Thresh Kael stood at the center of the chamber, looking older than his 800 years. "Let me ensure I understand this correctly, Admiral. Your ship, the most advanced warship in the Etherian fleet, fired 800 projectiles at the human vessel." "Yes, High Counselor. And their defensive systems destroyed all 800 projectiles in 2.3 seconds. "Correct. Without taking any damage themselves." "None whatsoever, High Counselor." Thresh Kael nodded slowly. And then their weapon systems targeted your ship, but did not fire. They chose not to fire, High Counselor. But for a moment, we were completely at their mercy. The chamber remained silent as the full implications sank in. The most powerful warship in galactic history had been rendered helpless by a single human patrol vessel, and the humans had chosen mercy over destruction. Ambassador Quillith of the Hive Worlds was the first to speak. High Counselor, we must discuss surrender terms. Surrender? General Vextar's hologram flared with indignation. We haven't even fought them yet. General, Admiral Zethmore said calmly, what would be the point of fighting? Our combined fleets couldn't defeat one of their patrol ships. How many patrol ships do you think they have? Dr. Stone, who had been listening to the debate from the human delegation area, stood up. Excuse me, but may I say something? All eyes turned to her. After a moment, Threshkale nodded. Dr. Stone, you may address the council. Amanda walked to the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of 300 civilizations' fear focused on her. Honorable counselors, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? Threshkale asked. You seem to think we came here to conquer you or threaten you. That's not true. We came here hoping to join galactic civilization as friends and equals. Dr. Stone, the harmonic voice of the collective's representative, sang, you cannot join as equals when you possess technology that makes our greatest achievements look primitive. But we don't want to dominate anyone, Amanda protested. Yes, our technology might be different from yours, but that doesn't mean we want to use it against you. General Vextar's image leaned forward aggressively. Dr. Stone, your ship could destroy entire worlds. Your intentions are less important than your capabilities. With respect, General, your ships could also destroy worlds. Every species here has weapons capable of planetary destruction. Why is it different when we have them? Because, Admiral Mordinus said quietly, your weapons make ours look like children's toys. Amanda felt tears forming in her eyes. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to work. What do you want us to do? Forget everything we've learned? Destroy our ships? Go back to stone tools? The chamber buzzed with quiet conversations as the representatives considered this. Finally, Threshkale spoke again. Dr. Stone, the Council has discussed several options. One possibility would be for humanity to agree to technological restrictions. You would limit your ship construction and weapon development to levels comparable with existing galactic civilizations. Amanda stared at him in shock. You want us to voluntarily limit our own progress? It would preserve the balance that has kept the galaxy peaceful for 2,000 years. And if we refuse? Threshkale was quiet for a long moment. Then we would have to consider other options. Amanda felt a chill run through her. Are you threatening us? We are trying to find a peaceful solution to an impossible problem, Threshkale replied. On the Iron Dawn, Captain Morgan was watching the council proceedings through the ship's communication system. She had been ordered to remain in orbit around Prima Sanctum while Dr. Stone represented humanity at the formal negotiations. What she was seeing made her angry. Jake, she said to her first officer, are they seriously asking us to lobotomize ourselves technologically? It sounds that way, Captain, Jake replied grimly. Captain, Ben Parker called from his science station.